Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mindel Archives. Since we are getting closer to Yud Shvat, 70 years of the Rebbe's Nesius, 70 years of the Histalkus of the Frierdiker Rebbe, so I want to read to you a letter that a big Chassid wrote to the Rebbe that the Rebbe should accept the Nesius. But before that, I want to read you a paragraph that Chassidim wrote 3 weeks after Yud Shvat. Then there was it was a very somber, heartbroken feeling amongst many Chassidim after the Histalkus. So they wrote and they signed a letter. Rabbi Levitin, Rabbi Shmuel Levitin, Rabbi Simpson, Rabbi Rivkin, Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Kazanovsky, and Rabbi Rothstein. And they wrote it in Hebrew, and I will try to translate this paragraph in English. We are like a ship at sea without a captain. Who will comfort us? And they continued to write. We commit ourselves to continue and increase the holy work of the Rebbe Nishmose Beginze Merayimim. We plead with all our brothers to uphold all that the Rebbe told us, his holy mission to spread the wellsprings outward. In the middle of that time, people were uncertain. There rose a chassid, and he was a daring chassid, clear mission to continue the chain of the Rebbe of Chabad, so that this chain will remain unbroken. And he wrote a letter, a heartful letter to our Rebbe, the seventh link in the chain, who was reluctant to take the leadership. The Rebbe didn't want to take the leadership, so he wrote to the Rebbe a letter. And he was Harav HaChassid Avram Sender Nemtsov. He was the father-in-law of Rabbi Nissim Mindel. And as we once mentioned, he was a Chassid of the Rebbe Rashab, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and of the Rebbe. And when the Frierdiker Rebbe met him in Europe, years before Tovshin Yud, he said to Rabbi Avram Sender, Ihr hat gesucht am Memes, ihr hat gefunden am Memes, und ihr hat gelebt mit dem Memes. You searched for the truth, you found the truth, and you lived with the truth. And he wrote a powerful letter, a beautiful handwriting, that the Rebbe should accept the Nesius. I think he was the first one that wrote that. Now, this is his handwriting. This is the letter that he wrote to the Rebbe then. He wrote it in 3 weeks, the same time, 3 weeks after the Histalkus of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Now this handwriting saved him from the Russian army to fight in the front, because he was supposed to be in the front, the battle in the front. But when they saw his handwriting, they said, no, you're not going to the front, you'll work with us in the office and you'll write for us, because of his handwriting. So this is a beautiful handwriting. And now I'm going to read. This is written in Hebrew, and I tried to translate it in English. I tried more or less word for word. I hope it's word for word. And this was written the 5th day of Parshas Mishpatim. The Frierdiker Rebbe's Histalkus was Parshas Boy, and this is Parshas Mishpatim. And he writes on top, Hine, the date, Hine anoichi sholeach balach lefonecha lishmarcha baderech. Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way. And this he wrote, Tehei Shnas Yeshua. The abbreviation then, I think he was the first one that made the abbreviation on the year, Tovshin Yud, Tehei Shnas Yeshua. And this is the letter that he wrote to the Rebbe in Hebrew. Greeting and blessing to the esteemed Gaon, the Chassid in the chain of Yichas Menachem Schneerson Shlita. At this time, our spirit has been very broken and has fallen because of the passing of Kvei Kedushas Admur Nishmose Beginze Merayimim, whose holiness is as dear to us as the holiness of a beautiful Sefer Torah written in 6 columns. We can rightly say about the Rebbe Admur Yosef Yitzchak that a tzaddik is the foundation of the world. Tzaddik Yisoid Olam. He was the quality of Yisoid, foundation. Yisoid is the 6th Sphira, and he is the 6th Rebbe. In addition, he was the kind of foundation upon which was built the entire Jewish people the world over. After the tragic destruction our people suffered in the war, with the spreading of Torah and the instilling of pure Yerushalayim, the strengthening of Torah education, and the support of the refugees in both material and spiritual matters, who can possibly describe all the holy work he did? It goes without saying that his wisdom and counsel was a great benefit to all who sought his advice. And now, after the Istalkus, we need to consider, number 1, the chain of Chabad Rebbes, the chain of the Schneerson name. There could, God forbid, be a spiritual destruction of the Chabad community with no one to comfort her, to treasure her, that they will be. Now, to break the chain, there should be no destruction of God's name. The Medrash says that Hashem went 500 years to make himself a name. Yet, here we are doing the opposite, stopping the Schneerson name that already has been established and made. It is for this that our souls weep. And it's a double tragedy. Not only have we lost a great treasure, we also have no one to comfort us. Gam menachem ein lanu. But we do see a light. Rabbi Avram Sender writes, but we are not despaired, and he underlined. Our eyes have been opened and we see that there is someone to comfort us, but he is distant. Rachok mimenu menachem meshiv nafshenu. The one who can comfort us, menachem, and revive our spirit is here, but he is distant. He is reluctant, hesitating to come near. Why does he hesitate? He writes, because of his humility. He says he's not worthy or deserving of it. And number 2, he writes, and also he says he does not have supporting hand, the chizuk yad of the Rebbe, schuse yagin oleinu. Now, in answer to this, in these 2 points, he writes, according to our understanding, he is most certainly worthy, and he underlined that, and deserving, and upon his rest, the continuity of the chain, and he can certainly undertake the mission on his shoulders. That's number 1. And number 2, as to the argument, he has no strength of the hand, chizuk yad, of the Frierdiker Rebbe, we declare, Rabbi Nemtsov writes to the Rebbe, we declare, Rabbi Yitzchak Dubov Shlita, whose name reflects Pachad Yitzchak, strength of Yitzchak, as well as myself. Thank God, I have reached the age of Gvurais, strength. He became then around 80 years old. Together we can have the strength to initiate and inspire the Chabad community. To number one, infuse him with strength, as if the Rebbe is supporting him. Hasidim are able to fill in for the Rebbe. And number two, to crown him with a royal crown of Admur. So he will, Be'ezras Hashem, continue through the quality of the beloved seven, which is the seventh of the chain, the Chabad leadership, until the coming of Mashiach. Then he finishes off. We are talking about the continuation of the chain of Chabad leaders. So we will see and hint to this from the chain Shalsheles in the Torah. The Shalsheles is a musical trope. Shalsheles, on top of the words of the Torah, which need to be read in a Shalsheles fashion, he writes. The Shalsheles is in Parshas Vayera about Leit, who is being led by the hand out of Sdom, being rescued by the angel. Leit was the ancestor of Mashiach. David HaMelech, the King David, comes from Rus, from Leit. There is a Shalsheles chain and the word Vayismamo, which means he hesitated. Perhaps to hint to the fact that just as Leit hesitated to start the chain of royalty of Mashiach, and the angel strengthened his hand, so too, he underlined, in the case of the Rebbe, who is hesitating because he thinks himself unworthy and without support. It is the Chassidim who are lending him a supporting hand, so he will take on the mantle of leadership and will continue the chain. That's the first Shalsheles. Now the second Shalsheles, there is yet another Shalsheles in the verse in Parshas Chayesora about Eliezer, the servant of Avram, who is the well-known Chonon, when he asked the Eibishter for help and his mission to find a wife for Yitzchok. The Shalsheles is on the word Vayomar Hakrino. He said to Hashem, asking him for success. And just like the chain and the word, where Eliezer is asking for success at the well, perhaps also it is a hint to the success of the Rebbe will be blessed with in the continuation of the chain of the Rebbes of Chabad in their mission to spread the wellsprings of Chassidus, Divrei Elokim Chaim, to all parts of the world, and with these wellsprings he will nourish all people with both physical and spiritual nourishment for both the learned and the simple folk. And this is the letter that he wrote. Now, and Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe saw this letter, and there was an answer, but it's not important now. And this letter for the Rebbe to accept the Nesias. This was the first letter that Rebbe got. This Rabbi Avram Sender was the one who actually, by Yud Shvat, by Farbringen, he stood up and he said, Shechiyonu, Vikimonu, Vigiyonu, and the Rebbe should say a maimer. He was very mekushah to the Rebbe. In Mitzvah Hashem, next week we're going to continue how about the first Farbringen, where the first Farbringen took place, and how many Chassidim there were, and in general, the whole first Farbringen that the Rebbe had in Tovshin Yud Aleph. We will continue Mitzvah Hashem next week.